Workaholism, the approval drug. I'm almost tempted to stop right there and not say another word and let you think about it. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about workaholism, the approval drug. And I know that feeling you're getting right now. It's in your chest. You're starting to feel it in your stomach. There's a reason for that. We're going to talk about that and more on episode 848 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
I'm good. What do you think about the minimalist introduction?
It was different.
I was trying to think about what to say, and then I realized it's like that sometimes there's nothing to say, and that's all you need to say.
Sometimes the value of silence.
It just felt right. Sometimes you just go with it.
Appropriate or right?
It felt like the thing to do in the moment. How's that?
Okay. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Antidote, our daily podcast. Each week, Bob and I have a topic of conversation around, and then each day of the week, each weekday, a little bit deeper into that. So, as Bob mentioned, we're talking about workaholism this week. Been an interesting conversation all week long. That even started with Memorial Day, where we had that conversation. And as we go through this today, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments. We are live today. Yesterday we were recorded, so we're back live today. So we'll be able to respond and incorporate your comments into the show. So we look forward to your thoughts and ideas because we know that it'll have value to our conversation. At the conclusion of that conversation, we'll each share our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you figure out if you happen to be a little bit uncertain, or maybe you're feeling a little too like you like the workaholism a little too much and need to figure out how to do something different. Avoid that crazy drug that it may be, and figure out how to take another step, do something a little bit different. And of course, if you have a one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments as well, because we know there might be somebody out there who has heard this conversation, or people have told us they just haven't heard it. And they are ready because of the way that you share it, or with your example. That makes all the difference to help them really hear it and then figure out what to do next. Before we dive into that conversation, though, each morning, Bob and I do our celebrations. So, Bob, what are you celebrating today?
So,
it's an interesting stance that you took.
I'm struggling. There's a problem here with my camera this morning. I can't figure it out. And I've been standing the last couple of months and I like it better, but no matter what I do, this camera it's really driving me crazy. And you're garbled a little bit from time to time. So not our best production morning.
So you were angry? That was your angry stance?
I was kind of annoyed about it. All of it. Yeah. For a moment. Okay. Yes.
Fair enough. So you need a celebration this morning.
I do need a celebration this morning because it gets me in the right mindset to go through my day. That's why we celebrate. So I'm going to celebrate the fact that we do celebrations. Up on my Facebook page yesterday came a message yesterday from May 31st, 2021, which was the broadcast we did on this show about why we celebrate. So we've been doing this more than 2 years, the celebration part. But I really think it is something that I was trying to figure out what you and I could hang our hat on, something that made the biggest difference for us in the last couple of years in terms of helping the world. And I think the celebrations really have. I had someone a couple of weeks ago say, I don't listen to all your program, but I really like that celebration thing. Because as you're coming up with a celebration, I'm thinking about my own day, the prior day, and I'm thinking about what I can celebrate. And I really like that. So I'm going to celebrate that our celebrations that we go through. Like yesterday, I had a call with our Renegade Success Network folks, and they each had something to celebrate. And one of the people's like, I can't think of anything to celebrate. And we kind of pressed him a little bit, and he came up with something. So I think that's what I'm going to celebrate today, the fact that our celebrations are having an impact.
I like that.
How about you?
We should share this. Missy has already. Says, I actually mentioned your podcast in my priority management session and publicly outed myself working on more of that. Thank you
I love it.
sharing that. I hope it had some value and hopefully an impact in the priority management session. That sounds like that's an appropriate place to have that conversation.
You are super garbled, Tom. Super garbled. Can you fix it while I talk for a couple of minutes?
I'll try.
All right. I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes. So if you haven't been with us, for some reason, we do these celebrations every morning. It's a way for us to, as I said, move from a mindset. Sometimes, you're just not in that mindset that you don't feel like you're being successful. You don't know what's going on. It's just something that you need to sort of kickstart yourself for the day. So we do these celebrations, and each morning, Tom and I find something to celebrate. And I will tell you, some mornings it's difficult for me. And some mornings when I'm in the shower at 6:15, 6:30, I'm like, oh, I got the perfect celebration. And I find it carries over to other parts of my day. And even on the weekends when we don't do the broadcast, I find that I actually find things to celebrate. And it started to permeate all of my day. It's not just before the program, but last night I was outside for a minute and I saw the moon coming up. I was like, oh, that's really pretty moon. Wow, it's really cool that I can watch the moon come up. So that celebration, and it takes that edge off of me, I think, is one of the things. It makes me look at things. I think it's a way of really expressing gratitude without saying, what am I grateful for? Because I think sometimes grateful is a little elevated. And so I think that's been really powerful for me. I know it's been really powerful for the Renegade Success Network folks. I know it's been powerful for you. We've been using this with everyone that we engage with in terms of coaching. And so I think it's really been a powerful tool that we've used that I think has made a big difference. I know it's made a huge difference for me on the darkest days that I've had. It's like, well, at least I got this. I should be really thankful. Yeah. I can remember there were days where it's like, this is just a bad situation. And I'm like, although here's the good thing, I get to be in this situation. How many people wouldn't be in this situation?
Yes,
so I think it's really that. You're back. Yes.
Well, I think that's one of the things that the more you do it, the more you hardly have to think about it. It just becomes a part of enjoying the moment that you're in. And not worrying too much about what's coming ahead, what's been behind, or, it at least allows you, if you're in a time, as you shared, that you're challenged, you can get through it. And because of some other thing that you realize the value that you have to offer the world. And I think that's, and the value the world provides you back. I think that's the other piece to it is, not only do I think we help ourselves, I think we help others when we share our celebrations, and maybe we get a chance to help them see the value that is out there and the value that they provide to others.
So what's your celebration then today?
So my celebration is, yesterday I had to do this facilitation of a session for college students. It's part of this program that I'm doing through UMBC, and I'll be doing 7 of them throughout the summer. And it's a conversation about public service, which is something that I'm interested in. And I know that the people there are going to be passionate and engaged, and they were. And so part of it was I shared my quote about there's no such thing as right or wrong. There is only what's real for each of us. And I think I even shared with you maybe that I had some hesitation about that.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday beforehand.
Knowing how college students can be passionate about what they have to say and do. And actually had one person, which was just feedback, and it was interesting to hear, that really liked it. It really impacted them, and they were going to write it down, and they thought that it was an interesting approach, and so I think that was just some reinforcement that, yeah, no, not everybody may have. And I even said, if this is not something you agree with, please feel free to share that thought as well. I appreciate the comments that I got, and I also am open to hear your value and what's real for you and how that may not apply to what I had to say. And so for me, I think that's one of the first times that I've really shared that, as much outside of this show, which I shared all the time, that I have shared that statement. A lot of times I tell people that I try not to use the words right or wrong. I usually put them in quotes. And yet not often have I used that statement. So I thought, so that's kind of a little, I guess, coming out party for that, my quote. Maybe now it'll be listed as a quote from Tom Brush somewhere if you do a Google search for right or wrong. So
how many people were in the room? You had one that was, I love it. How many other people were there?
38.
Oh, wow. And what was the reaction, right? The instinct you said, whatever you said about there isn't right or wrong, there just is, or however you said it.
It was hard to tell, because I was using slides, and so I could only see a small handful of people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that there was some value to it. We were having conversations about some of the opportunities and challenges, how I experienced it, and knowing that we were going to have a discussion around it, I wanted to just say, as we're having this discussion, some people may not share the same opinions as you do. That's one of the challenges of service.
You're garbled again.
Okay. Why don't we move on to start the show?
Okay, so I'm gonna start talking about the approval drug, workaholism, and it was funny. We were talking about titles for the programs this week, and the approval drug came up, and it instantly registered with me, because I think for me, and this has just been a week of huge admissions. If I ever want to get a full-time job with a company and they listen to this week of programs, they're either going to love me or hate me. But I think the whole issue around this idea of an approval drug is, I think often when I have worked more than my 40 hours, I've worn it as a badge of honor. I've worn it as I'm better than all of you. I've worn it as a look at me, approve me, I'm your best employee. And I think at times that's been advantageous. I know I've gotten opportunities throughout my career because of that commitment, but I think it's also created friction with the people I've worked with. And I think it's created just friction in how I go about doing what I'm doing, because I think if you're doing things in your job to get approved, I can't believe I'm saying this. So many years of therapy finally coming to roost. If you're doing these things just to be approved, you're not really doing them for the good of whatever you're trying to do. And I've been guilty of that a number of times. And if I'm being really honest, Monday's show, I really didn't want to do this show Monday. We were talking about Friday or Thursday, and I was like, I really don't want to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'll just suck it up and do it. It fits our theme. I don't want to let Tom down, which is code for I want Tom to approve of me, because I value his opinion of me. And I think so often we fall into that trap unknowingly. I couldn't have given you that logic Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday. Had I think if I'd said to you Thursday, hey, Tom, look, here's the deal. I don't really want to do this Monday. I want you to approve of me, and I want you to think I'm a good partner in this endeavor. So I'll do it for you. You'd be like, no. I whatever is right for you in that moment, whatever you want to do is fine. This is not a deal breaker in approval. And I think that's the part of this that I'm really trying to work through in a lot of aspects of my life, that the external approval that we get for these actions we take really doesn't matter. as much as I think I've always thought it did. You know, do you get your validation externally or internally? If you're getting it externally, then workaholism's easy. People say, oh, Bob, wow, you're always working. Oh, you're so committed. Oh, you're the first one in, you're the last one out. I can remember one job where I literally would be the first one in and the last one out. I'd be there 9-10 hours. I probably worked 4.5 and goofed off the others, if I'm being honest. But I looked like I was Mr. He's there, man. His car's there. I come in at 7:15. Bob's car's there. I leave at 5:30. Bob's car's there. The funny thing is, the car was there, but Bob wasn't fully there. I could have left my car there and gone to the local restaurant, hung out, had a couple beverages, a dinner, and then come back, picked up my car, and it would have equaled the same amount of work.
Well, I think it's interesting that there's. I think, again, of course, we're all looking for approval, right? And in our job, we know that approval means we're going to keep our job. And so there's value in that. It's funny. I think I was the same, except I don't know that I needed people to say that to me. I guess I just wanted them to believe that. Because I felt that if I was there and people saw me as putting in extra time, doing whatever, then it was almost like they wouldn't worry about me. They could, there might be somebody else they could worry about. So I don't know if that's the same thing or different. I didn't need them to tell me that.
But you're not a words of affirmation guy.
True.
I am. You're absolutely not. So to me, for you, doing the action, you assign they believe in me, that's it. For me, unless you tell me you believe in me, right, you don't believe in me.
Well, it's interesting too, because one of the things that came up yesterday in our conversation that comes up a lot in especially the nonprofit space, is this whole idea of savior syndrome. And that if we go in and work hard and do things that give an appearance, and we're only doing them for the appearance, is that truly does that make it less valuable? And I cautioned people that it's hard to know why people do what they do. It's hard to determine intent and rationale and what is behind what someone does. And I think it can very easily lead you into judgment. Again, Bob's car is in the lot all the time. Must be Bob's working really hard. Joe's car seems to show up at around, it's not there when I get there at 5 and is already gone when I leave at 5:15. Why is Joe's car? Why is that Joe and not Bob? And so we make some judgments based on not all the information, just a piece of information, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the actual case.
I want to bring another piece into this. Ed shares with us, I measure success in business with not having a need to advertise, that my work speaks for itself. And when my clients never ask how much it will cost, my reward is in the paycheck. Now, the great thing for Ed, unlike you and me, is Ed's putting together a product. So you can see it and it's right there in front of you. So you can judge it and say, the workmanship on that is really great. What I do and what Tom does, we help coach people so you don't have a physical product. And as I've seen so often, when someone works with us and there's an improvement, they also often attribute it to other things, because that's just the way we are. So I think if you're a product-based person, I think when you're creating a product, it's a little easier to get that affirmation. People say, hey, that's really great. When I do things with people, it may be one of 88 different things, and they may assign the success that they have to anything other than what I may have said, or I may have said to them 14 times, but their cousin twice removed mentioned it at a party, and that's the time they hear it. So I think that's one of the things about products versus services. I often say to myself, I wish I were selling a product that you could put your hands on, and I could put it right in front of you and say, here's this thing I'm selling. But that doesn't always work. And I see we've lost Tom. So I'm going to talk a little bit more. And thank you for that comment, Ed. I think it takes the discussion in a really powerful direction, because we do have two distinct areas here in terms of how we look at things. And then Missy adds, thank you, Missy. I was looking for a comment from someone. I tell people to measure results, which is objective based rather than activity that is time bound. And now here's where the challenge is, Missy, if I can carry this a little further. Tom and I have been really trying to work with people on the idea of not measuring the results as much, because you can't control the results. Whereas the activity, the actions you take, the steps you take, you can measure. And that's one of the challenges I think Tom and I have in describing what we do to people, is we're saying, hey, the steps you took, you can't control. So if I take the step today to make, to go to a networking event and talk to 5 people, okay, that's going to be my thing today. Going to a networking event, I'm going to have 5 substantive discussions with people. That doesn't mean they're going to buy from me. Doesn't mean I'm going to have a contract signed by the end of the day. I may never get a contract signed by any of those people. They may never talk to me again. They may call my email I send them following up, spam, whatever. But I can objectively say, my goal is to talk to 5 people today. I talked to 5 people. And I think that's, Tom, are you looking at Missy's comment?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think that, I like what you said. I think that, in some cases, the results, it depends on how you're measuring things, right? If you are measuring activity and you say, I'm going to go and talk to 5 people, and that's my goal, you can control that. You can walk up to people. You might not be able to have a conversation because they might not want to talk to you. There might not be 5 people in the room, which you can't control. And yet you could measure, was I able to achieve my goal? Did I talk to those people? I think that's the challenge, is like, how do we establish what results we're looking for? If the results are something that they have to decide, then it's really difficult to measure results in that regard. And I think that there is the combination of, if activity is our goal, and we believe that in taking the activity, which I can control, that we'll see what the results are that I get. Again, if your goal is to go talk to 5 people, let's say 10 people at a networking event, and you walk into the room and there are 6 people there, you can't control how many people are going to be in the room. So if you're only focused on the results, you're going to look and be frustrated because, well, I guess I didn't meet my goal. I didn't talk to 10 people, and yet you might talk to the 6 people and get more business than if you had talked to 10, because you took the action of actually being willing to have the conversations. And I think that's it's hard to understand that, because the activity isn't a guarantee of the results that we desire, right? We all desire getting more clients. We all desire selling more goods. We all desire that thing that will actually provide us the opportunity to keep doing what we do. And yet, if that's all we're focused on is what is that end result, we can't control that.
Missy clarifies her comments a little bit. Activity in the respect of hours in the chair rather than the actual work completed.
Yes, I think that's different. I think that is.
I agree.
On time. If I'm just there in the office for from 7 until 7, that measurement is up there. At least physically,
you're garbled again, Tom. I'm telling you, you got some hours in the chair. We're going to have to figure this out. This is going to be my mission, folks, for the rest of this week. I'm going to figure out Tom's situation. If I have to go out and buy him a computer or run a new wire or get him a different cell phone service, because it is crazy today. Plus, I don't like when you're on the other side. It throws me.
I can always do this.
Ed's comment. Ed says exactly, Bob, and he knows that I love when he affirms me, so that's always good. This is why I love what I do. And we're going back to the idea of products versus services. When you have a product that you're selling, it's a little more concrete. If I go to a restaurant, I can evaluate the food and say, this was the best Mexican food I've ever had, or this is really lousy, or it's too spicy. It's harder when you're going to a psychologist, I guess even my guitar teacher. There are weeks where he does a great job teaching, but it may not click for me. And he'd be like, hey, I gave you my best lesson in the world. You just didn't pick it up, buddy. So I go and say, what a waste of my hour. When in fact, he did great work, and it might be 6 weeks later where it clicks for me. And it was actually 6 weeks ago, that one thing he said in the middle of an hour that finally my head recognized.
Well, that's the idea about people tell us things all the time. At what point do we actually hear them, truly hear them, and then are able to figure out how to move forward? And I think that's one of the challenges, that sometimes we may never know that something that we said in the 848 times that we've done the show resonates with someone years later.
Or even one of us.
Or even one of us.
There have been some things I know you've said 200 times where the 201st time I'm like, wait a second.
Or someone else says it to you. And then you're like,
correct. They write a comment. It's like, oh, there it is. So,
yes.
And I think the approval drug that we're talking about in terms of workaholism is we want those moments. And sometimes we equate time served as leading to whatever it is. It's very interesting to me that as I talk to more people who have success, whatever they define success as, they tend not to be the people that work the most. They tend to be the people that work the most efficiently.
Sure.
They focus on those key things that get them where they want to go, not everything. And I think I never really put it together until right this minute, but if you're working on everything, you have 40 things that you're going to do today, odds are really good you're not going to get 40 things done today. And the odds are that the list is going to grow because it's the way you're looking at it.
Or the 40 things aren't really going to move you forward.
Correct.
Whereas you always like to say you could go out and buy supplies, you could clean your desk, all those things that your favorite love to do.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, you might do 40 things. Are they truly? And I think that's a little bit what Missy is talking about in activity. Is it activity that is actually moving you forward? It's just activity to keep you busy. Because we know how much Bob likes to be busy.
And that makes this whole situation even worse for me. Right? I mean, so if you said to me, Bob, you could spend the next 42 minutes. This is a really important 42 minutes. I got this guy you need to talk to. You're going to be on the call with him for 42 minutes. And it's going to drive your business forward hugely, whatever that looks like. Or you said, Bob, you know what? I got 8 hours of calls that you can make, and it might help you. I would take the 8 hours.
Really?
Absolutely, because I have to fight that 9 to 5 in the office mentality. Even though I have a business now where I can come and go as I please. Granted, I've got clients, they expect me to do my job, and they often schedule around their lives, and I have to accommodate some of that. But I really struggle. Like yesterday, I stopped working. We start at 7, and in my head, I don't think of that very often. But yesterday, I'm like, oh, it's the last episode of Ted Lasso. I want to see it before anyone tells me what it was. So at 3:00, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit and watch this last episode of Ted Lasso. Turned my phone off. I got a beverage of my choice, and I sat and I watched that. I can't tell you, Tom, how guilty I felt about that. Even telling you right now, I feel like the work police are going to come get me. Even though if you do the math, 7:00 to 3:00, that's an 8-hour day. Sure. And I work those 8 hours. So that's where I've got we start at 7. I consider this part of my work day.
7-ish.
There are a number of days, 7-ish. There are a number of work days where it's 5:00 and I'm going, okay, yeah, I worked from 9 to 5. Okay, I did my 8 hours. And then there's some days where I have one great coaching session where I know I made a huge difference in someone's life impacted them powerfully, it might have taken 6 minutes. But in my mind, it's like, okay, well, that was 6 minutes. Now I got 7 hours and 54 minutes to go until my day is finished. And I think that's part of this workaholism approval drug aspect is I have to really get out of that 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 1 hour lunch in the middle of the day mindset.
Well,
you do it much better.
Well, think about it too. You just said it's not 9 to 5. It's because you wanted to be the first car in, so it's probably 8. The last
it was 6:50 to probably 7 p.m.
Sure.
And if I'm being honest, I was hiding a lot of that time from things outside of work.
As we all do, I think that's one of the, if we really had things that were driving that approval that we were looking for, we wouldn't do that. Or if we had nothing, I know in one case I didn't feel like I had anything doing that because I was here, my family was in Binghamton, and I was not having anything better to do. I might as well just stay here at work. I think that's part of it.
One other aspect of it is if you're getting approval from work and you're not getting approval in other aspects of your life, your family life's difficult, you're having issues with your parents who are getting older, sometimes being at work and just being able to have that consistency and that stability encourages workaholism. I was really sick at one point a number of years ago, and work was the place for me where I could come into work and not think about being sick. And I wanted that for hours. I was such a great employee because it's like, okay, I'm walking into the office. I literally cannot think about how I feel because I've got to do my job. So it became yet another approval drug, the approval being for those 6 hours or 9 hours or however long it was, I was healthy. They didn't know I was sick. In fact, when I left that job, one of the people's like, Bob, you never were sick one time. I'm like, well, actually, over the last year and a half, I've gone through a whole bunch of chemotherapy. And this was one of the owners of a small company. And she's like, come on, seriously? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I had no idea. I used that. The approval I needed was I need approval that I'm not sick. Right. So here I am coming to this place. And I think it's very easy to take that drug and want it to grow like any addiction, right? You work till 5:05 and your boss says, oh, great, Tom, thanks for staying late. And well, if I stay till 5:10, he's going to tell me, wow, Tom, you're really amazing. You stay till 6 o'clock. Tom, you're my hero. You get the bonus this year.
There is no doubt that is, again, that's if we're getting approval from it, why wouldn't we go to just like a kid does? If I'm getting approval, no matter what I do, I'm just going to keep doing things and I'm going to keep getting approval. I think we're the same way. We learn that early and it sticks with us. And I think it's then a matter of figuring out how do you leverage that approval differently.
Well, and I also think the issue is also that when we shift from a 9 to 5 job or when we work for someone else to the situation you and I find ourselves in, that approval doesn't come in the same form when I'm working for myself. The hours aren't set. So I don't even know what the 9 to 5 is anymore. It's 7 a.m. So already the paradigm has shifted. And then I don't have a set lunch time. I work from home, so I could go take lunch. I can vacuum. I can sit on my porch and read a book. I have a lot of ways that I can not get approval. And at the end of the day, I also, if I don't get approval in some way, there's something missing, which often makes me want to work later because that's what got me the approval that I want so much. And now I don't have a way to get it. I
think it makes complete sense. And I think one of the things, as you were talking about it, to me, that's one of the values of celebrations, right? When you work for yourself, you don't have a boss who's coming down there to pat you on the back for all the things that you've done. You're the boss. And I think it becomes so easy for us to be the ones who beat ourselves up. We're good at that. We're good at being the boss who says, well, you're not being a very good employee today because you stopped to watch Ted Lasso for an hour, no matter what had been done before or after. And And I think that it's easy to do that. Or it's like, oh, yeah, you're leaving early today, Bob. Why are you shutting down your computer at 3:30? And so you're like, well, okay, if I want myself to feel good about myself, I worked, you're justifying it in some ways and saying, well, I got up at 7 and I worked from 7 until 5. So I put in a full day's work.
It's 10 hours. I can do the math because I do this all the time. I know exactly how many hours that is.
So are you giving yourself approval for time or the work that you do?
I think I give myself approval for time because often the work I do is me approving myself. And that's not the approval I need because it doesn't feel valid. When I say to myself, boy, that was a really tough, I led that workshop. That was a really powerful workshop. I really put in 2 hard hours there. There was a lot of prep. That doesn't justify to me. That's okay. That was 2 hours of your day. Now go do the other 6. I'm a really tough boss on me. I've always been the toughest boss. And that's another part of this. The boss of Bob is not very receptive to the idea that, boy, you really put in a tough 2 hours. That boss didn't like when you were saying the other day, well, when I had employees and they worked late in the evening, I'd tell them, hey, go take care of something and then come in late. Bob, the boss, was like, I got to have a talk with Tom, the boss, because that's not how it rolls.
That was what was real for me. Maybe. And I think one of the things is, this is where I think the value of celebrations comes in. If you can start to celebrate the activities that you've done, the time piece goes away. Like yesterday. I mean, and I got up early because I knew I had some things, as you can imagine, had some things to finish up on my presentation.
Tom had some last minute prep.
That's just what's real for me. And, so by the time I completed the 3-hour the 3-hour session and a little bit of debrief afterwards, it was almost 1 o'clock. And I had started probably at 5:36, and I knew that I was just like tired of staring at a screen, tired of sitting, and I was okay mostly with what I did in the afternoon, which I took a pretty long break and then got back to what I was. Even went and lied down for a little bit because my eyes were just tired. And I think I could, in being able to celebrate what I had just done, no matter, I didn't have any feedback from anyone or whatever about what the kids thought or the people in the room thought, outside of a couple of small comments as we were going through. And I was like, you know what? I provided my value. And now I can take a break to prepare myself to keep providing my value whenever that could be. And I think, and I have found the ability to move away from time being the validation to the value that I provide.
It's a work in progress for me. And
the
interesting thing is I've coached people on it and been somewhat successful because I think I know it all too well.
Maybe you need to coach Bob, the business owner, not Bob, the employee.
If I could coach Bob, the business owner, I'd be in a different place this morning.
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to put this up because I appreciate Ed's comments as well. I think this is the second time this week he said he'd fire myself. Maybe it was last week. I'd fire myself except I'm the boss. So I don't know. You might want to be boss.
And then he adds this because of the time he puts in. So he's putting in the long hours and presumably being successful and not wasting time because Ed doesn't strike me as a time waster. He's up with us at 7 a.m. I'm assuming he's not, he's got something going on. It wouldn't surprise me if Ed was at work right now.
Could be.
Do you have your one thing?
I do. Would you like to go first?
I would.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So I think what I've discovered this morning is that I am looking for the external approval around the work I do. And so I have this crazy idea that if I keep working more hours, somehow the magical approval fairy will come forth. and bestowed upon me. So if I work from 7 till 4, if I stay till 4:15 or maybe 4:30, I'll get that phone call. It says, Bob, you're amazing. You changed my whole life. And I really think there are times that that's what keeps me staying at work longer, or at least I can outwork other people. You know, I'm not getting approval anywhere else, but boy, I can be the guy who works 10-hour days. I can do that because if I log 10 hours, that means I'm successful and I'm working hard. So much there. I know.
Can I share a thought?
You could take this whole week of episodes and probably do about 23 years of therapy on me.
Could I share a thought?
Please go forth.
I actually don't think you're seeking outside approval.
Oh, now you did it. I knew that. I knew that.
Because how many times do people call you and say, oh my God, Bob, that was amazing? No matter how long you stay open, your phone is available.
Can I put my phone number in the chat?
Well, here's the thing. I know that there are a lot of people who believe that, who think that about you.
You know, there's only one person who doesn't. Bob
the boss.
Bob the boss. Yep.
So somehow Bob the boss has to stop thinking about, oh, his hand ran through his hair. We're getting there now. Bob the oh, I got to share this.
I wasn't. Thank you, Kelly.
I was chilling for your words of affirmation.
Bob, you are amazing and hardworking. There are the words of affirmation. There are your words of affirmation for today. Thank you for that, Kelly.
Well, what's funny is that, not funny, what's interesting to me is that I'm not sure who's hearing that message or who needs that message, Bob the employee or Bob the owner. And I think that there's
I think if I'm being honest with you today, it's Bob the person behind all those faces.
Okay, fair enough. And I think that's the challenge is we can tell ourselves that time doesn't matter. You know, that the number of hours is not the critical thing. Probably because we're the person who's doing the work. And if the person inside of us who is the business owner believes that that's where the value comes, you know, the words of affirmation to us as the person or the person doing the work is okay. And yet, you know, it's one thing to have people, I can remember all the time that, you know, when I worked in alumni relations, alumni people would be like, oh yeah, we love working with you and so easy to do and whatever. And yet if I went back and got different feedback from my boss, far outweighed what all those other people thought, because they had no control over really whether I had my job or not. And it's really my boss who was seeing that. So even if they didn't see or hear, or even if they heard it, or people were saying it, they may not have heard it because they had a different perspective. And I think that becomes challenging, is if we're feeling like someone is watching over me and they are evaluating me by the time I put in. It's going to be really hard to ever feel like it's not about the time, it's about the value we provide. I don't know if that's my one thing or not. I was kind of just a response to your ideas.
I don't think you're going to do better. I think that's a good response and a good one thing. There's a lot to chew on there.
There is. I mean, because we do have those multiple parts of our brain that look at us, ourselves, in all the different roles that we play. And somehow there's all these roles we play, and the part of our brain, of our being, that supposedly oversees all those roles. And then they start evaluating, usually judging, based on something. And I think for many people, the person inside of them, because not only are they getting it internally, saying, I need to work more, I need to put the hours in, they're also getting it externally from their other person boss or the boss in their head.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for all that. Thank you for going on.
I'm going to put this up one more time, just because I feel like it would be valuable to you this morning.
What? Again, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Missy. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate you being here this morning. Glad you got to go on this journey of self-discovery of mine. Hopefully it provided you with some value. I will be trying to make sense of it all somewhat through the rest of the day and probably the rest of my life.
Maybe not. Maybe you'll come to find some peace in it.
That would be great. And if you're someone struggling with these things, hey, guess what? You're not alone. And Tom and I would love to talk to you about how we might be able to help you figure that out. And you may be saying, why would I listen to this knucklehead who's going through these same things? Believe it or not, sometimes that's how you find someone who's effective at helping you through a situation, is that they might just be a step or two ahead of you, or they may have been through it, or they're going through it. And if you're going through some of the things we've talked about today, really a discussion, you don't have to do this alone. I am learning more and more that when I try to be Bob, the owner who doesn't seek out outside help in any way, shape, or form, I become Bob, the frustrated, not achieving my goals moving forward guy. Having this discussion today, not the most comfortable thing I've ever done, but it's valuable to get the insights that I got from Tom and from others, because that's how I can move forward. That's how I can overcome this struggle that, frankly, I have. That yesterday I'm watching Ted Lasso and I'm going, I shouldn't be watching this. I should be working. I should be working, which is the craziest thing in the world.
That's what's real for you, though. So I have to figure out how to work through that.
If that's something you want to do, just go to the chat. You can say something as simple as chat, and Tom or I will reach out to you, or you can track us down on all the social media. You can even find us other ways. And I see Ed's comment, AA works because of the other people who have beat it. Yep.
And really, they're not beating it, right? I think this is what Ed is trying to say, is that all they have, as people would say, that you never really beat it. What you do is you figure out how to manage it. And that's where that they are, is that they have found ways to not let the approval drug of alcohol take over their everyday and all their activities in their life, basically. So,
and Kelly adds, thank you for sharing your vulnerability. That's very kind, Kelly. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. So thank you, everyone. Tom, I think it's time for you to do that beautiful closing you do. So I'll give you some words of affirmation.
Thanks. Appreciate that. All right, everyone.
I know.
Thanks so much for being with us today. And of course, everyone, as Bob said, for sharing your thoughts and ideas. It definitely added value to our show and to the world. And hopefully someone out there sees this and it has an impact on them. So if you would like to share your thoughts and ideas around this, especially if you're watching the recording or you are listening to the podcast, please feel free to share them, whether you share them on this or if you come into our Facebook group, Sculpt Your Business, from chaos and confusion to confidence and control, where you can share your thoughts and ideas. Bob and I will be sharing value and putting up polls and comments and questions and information. And we know that not only by you adding it, you will have value for someone else. You may just find something that helps you figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to seeing you inside of that group. If not, we will see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.-ish Eastern time, for our next episode of today's Antidote.
Hey, whatever you do, embrace the renegade in you. Even if that renegade is looking for approval or workaholic, hey, you know what? It's all good. It's who you are. You're a renegade. Go out and make it a great renegade day.
Absolutely. Enjoy your day, everyone. We'll see you soon.